Welcome all, excited to have you here for another iWin session. If you've been to our previous ones here this school year, we've really been focusing our iWin on the work-based learning continuum within a certain industry area. So today we're focusing in on manufacturing. You'll hear from Ridgewood High School, and they'll be talking through all their different experiences along the continuum. We also have the Illinois Manufacturers Association here today, who's going to talk through their efforts and some pieces and updates for you all as well. So welcome, welcome. Would love to know who's here, right? And also for our presenters, as they're thinking about sharing about their insights and best practices and other resources and pieces, you know who you are, right? Name, title, organization. But if there's something top of mind for you, a question about the design or the question about the implementation of work-based learning and manufacturing, please go ahead and write those in the chat. We would love to get that so that we make sure we are addressing those questions as we go through the presentations here today. If you've been to Illinois WorkNet, oh my gosh, I'm saying Illinois WorkNet, there's so many Illinois and W's, and if you've been to iWin sessions before, we really do create a space where folks are sharing, but then really addressing those questions and getting in the weeds sometimes too, right? As we know, work-based learning, there can be some weedy things that are really helpful to work through, and there's also some kind of broader best practices too to share. Logistics, right? Just please mute your computers if you have your phone connected to. We definitely create time for Q&A, and please feel free to use the chat throughout. So if someone's sharing something and you don't want to forget that question, please go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll make sure to either pause and address it or wait till the end of the presentation. But yeah, excited to have you all here. And so I'm Heather Penzak. I think I pretty much know just about everyone on here, but I'm with an organization called Education System Center based out of NIU, and supported the launch of iWin back in October of 2020, when, if you all, you know, maybe don't want to remember, but still remember, it's still our lives, 2020, and just wanted to create a space for folks to really come together, especially at that point about the virtual space, right? And how communities were grappling with shifting their work-based learning to a virtual model. But then really just continued that space here too, to meet together, you know, monthly, every other month, kind of depending on the cadence and availability of presenters, but just highlighting and exploring innovative models, sharing best practices and resources, but really thinking about those models and pieces where you can scale those, you can sustain those, and you're also thinking about the equity piece of work-based learning. What a game changer it can be for students, how much it can really direct or redirect their path, right? Both during high school, after high school, and all those pieces, and how you're building social capital for those students, especially our Black and Latinx students, who might not have access to that information, those opportunities, without us all really making intentional efforts to do so. And building connections among you all is a really big piece here. I know there's always things going on in the chat, meetings that kind of happen outside of iWin as folks connect through here. So encourage you all to continue to connect through the chat and as we're having our discussions moving forward. We do have a newsletter, so you can subscribe to that and kind of stay in touch with everything. But we also do within this space, you know, flag up where there might be needs for policy changes or support systems. We very much work at a statewide level as well with all this, so encourage you all to flag those. So again, for today, in terms of the work-based learning continuum, I'm going to go through this quickly, but it is here in the presentation. I'll link it again in just a moment. We're focusing on kind of these three components of the continuum. So building from career exploration to team-based challenges to those career development experiences. And Illinois has definitions for those. So again, not going to go through these in any sort of detail, but Ridgewood High School, they will share and kind of unpack these definitions and how they relate to the experiences that they have. But these really are our definitions within Illinois to say this is kind of that minimum threshold for quality, right? If you're offering this type of an experience, here's what you really should be doing. Language is incredibly important. We all talk about things in different ways, but the more we speak the same language, the more we can collaborate and build towards kind of the same outcomes and experience for young people. Couple of resources here to flag for you. We have some model program of study guides, one of them being in manufacturing and engineering. So this will go through some of that career focused coursework, that early college credit work. It will also show you those different post-secondary paths, those jobs, high growth, living wages. And so included a recording here for you all from this past November, as well as links to the guide and diagram. We have a team-based challenge resource bank. So we'll talk through some of those examples today, but do know that there's lots of different templates and models and ideas for inspiration for you all through the iWin Resource Hub as you're thinking about implementing the challenge. Also, and I don't know if more to add here or others on the line, but there are GCAM, so the Golden Quarter Advanced Manufacturing Partnership. Yeah, I think I got that one. They'll be having a manufacturing workforce success series. So there'll be some different in-person meetings and just really thinking through connecting with local companies and helping them think through the hiring of students, working with their education partners, and those resources to really continue to build that workforce and support people in the manufacturing industry. So more information there. Again, Terry or any other folks, if there's things to add, please let me know. All right. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Terry.
I was gonna say, you had their original name right. They've now changed. They're now the Greater Chicago Advanced Manufacturing Partnerships because they now merged with a VIA out here in Geneva. So they are really excited to be partnering with schools, and they're willing to help out any way they can. So if anybody has any questions, you want to shoot me an email, I can help you out and get you set up with anything there with those folks.
Awesome. Thanks, Terry. We also have our conference coming up here in just a couple of weeks. So the 60 by 25 Network, their annual conference, lots of different sessions there within work-based learning, but also in so many other components as you're thinking about college and career pathways and all the different pieces that support students and young people and all of us really on our path. So encourage you to go on there, check out the agenda. It's all virtual, it's all free, right? So please share with your networks. And attend as you are able, and everything will be recorded as well. So if there's anything that you would like to listen into but can't make, all of those things will be recorded and uploaded pretty much same day after they occur. All right. That was my quick ramble. Just want to make sure I get that all out there for you, but really want to turn it here to our presenters for today. So again, from Ridgewood High School, we have Eric Lasky and Lisa Velada. And then from the Illinois Manufacturers Association, Sarah Hartwick is with us. So we're going to kick it off with Ridgewood and then turn over to Sarah. And Eric, I will kind of drive through here for you.
Okay.
Usually decent at knowing when to go, but at any time, just ping me.
That works for us. Okay. So first off, Ridgewood High School, for those that are wondering, it's right by O'Hare Airport, right outside the city, Norwich, Illinois. So, and then our superintendent and principal are really behind the work we're doing. So I want to make sure to sort of at least, I think that's one of the biggest things that we've had from the top, they really want to push this and they realize the importance of the work that we're doing with manufacturing. So, so we can go ahead and get on to the next slide. So a little bit about Ridgewood is we have 800 students and we have 2 different pathways that students can go on. So we sort of, we sort of looked like what can we possibly do with our students, and we have the business and technology, and then we also have a health and science side as well. So this is our business and technology, and then you can see, one of our focus on this side is the manufacturing pathway. So a lot of the experiences we tried to provide our students early on sort of can lead into many of these things, including manufacturing. And we've been fortunate to have some kids follow that path and then really get into it as a career that they've been invested in. So I know Lisa's having a little bit of problem with her audio, so I don't know if she's able to contribute with that. So keep getting texts from her. So a couple of things about what are the goals of our school and how does manufacturing fit into our goals? And really our goals is, once again, fill the needs of our community, creating a diverse workforce, whether that is after high school, 2-year or 4-year degrees, or even more. Providing high school students with a better career choice with really a strong return on investment. And then, one of our goals too is developing a career pathway in manufacturing with multiple opportunities. So we wanted, because a lot of times the students, parents will be like, well, I want my student going to college. There are actually pathways in manufacturing where students can go to college, and there's alternate ways of paying for that college. So it doesn't necessarily mean they have to go right off to college, but a lot of the companies that we work with will pay for these students. They'll pay for their education. So educating our parents about how they can go about doing this, and the multiple options, we really find is really big for us. So those are our goals, which then brings us to, well, what about our why? So why are we doing this work? First of all, it's our occupational outlook. With manufacturing, we know that there's a huge shortage, high demand, good wages. And finally, another thing is our why is the multiple manufacturing companies in our backyard. Our students can literally walk to probably about 6 or 7 manufacturing companies in 3 minutes as soon as they leave our grounds. And we realize that as many of our students, we notice like the state and the community, well, we need to prepare them for the jobs then that are in our community where they can make higher wages. We do have our own like manufacturing meeting groups. And we have created a mission, I guess, in our advisory council. So you can sort of see our mission. Our mission we came up and it's developed. I'm actually going to show you a picture of that: engage, equip, and then empower these young people to be prepared and immediately contribute to industry. And then our council, you'll notice, consists of our colleges, our high school, and then you'll see District 86 and District 80. Those are actually K through 8. So this work has to be done K through, really K through 12 and then beyond. And then we also have TMA, which is Technical Manufacturing Company, and then also QCC, and then our DVR director as well, which is EFE. So that's our, we meet quarterly, and as we look to prepare our students and as we move them through this. So I want to talk a little bit about our mission and sort of how we funnel. And we really look at it as a funnel that starts in grade school to middle school to high school, then the technology company, and then finally to our employers. And we feel like we want to get, when you look at that encourage section, we need to start really big, and we know it's going to funnel down as kids get more into specifics. So we want to engage our students in many different activities in our grade schools and middle schools as we can. And we sort of use that encourage and then engage, because we feel like encouraging could be as little as doing like Lego projects, in the grade schools, and seeing which kids really like to build, how do they do things. And then we can do a little bit more with, now as they get middle school, we run our gadget camp, our fluid power action challenge, our engineering camps, and we do field trips. And then as they come to the high school, now we want to equip them a little bit more, and that's where we'll send them off to TMA. We have our Project Lead the Way curriculum. And then if they can continue on with that, with our colleges, and eventually what leads to employment. And we realize we have to start big on the left side to have substance at the right, because normally, it's just sort of, and our goal is to keep that funnel as wide as possible through each stage, but we know it's going to probably condense as we go each step of the way. So it's not something you just start at the high school level. It's really something you got to work way back with. So a couple of things that we're doing as far as the engage and equip as we move on to the next slide is, first off, all freshmen take Project Lead the Way. It's funny too, sometimes you tell the kids, are you in Project Lead the Way? And they're like, am I? And they all think it's just LTW. They don't know what it stands for. But and this is for the equity. Because if we let students pick which ones take Project Lead the Way and which ones don't, then our students are not going to have those experiences, and they're not going to realize, do I like this or do I not like this? And if we're one of our goals once again is to get that diverse workforce. This is part of the reason why we do that. And then from there, we have kids that can continue on. And it really helps with multiple pathways as well. But engineering is the big one for us with this. And then a course that we also offer, which is in the pathway, is we do have our geometry construction. And once again, who wants to do those hands-on? And then in our Algebra 2 and business, we try to do some manufacturing in that as well. Some of the equipment we have as students create their businesses. So once again, experiences that help feed in and bring our students down that path. As we look at—
I'm sorry, Eric, we have a question. I finally got in, guys. What is the curriculum of the class that you just spoke about?
Okay. Project Lead the Way, Geometry Construction, Algebra 2 and business.
Did you want something more specific, Chris?
Yeah, the one with all the freshmen have to take it. What's the curriculum?
BLTW, physics and engineering.
Yes. So these kids, they learn the design process. That's sort of like the overall competency in this course is design process, and really how to take a problem how to find a solution, and then evaluate that solution and see how you can modify and fix it. And they'll find sometimes their solution doesn't work or it breaks down. So they do a lot of modeling as far as drawing and then creating with both 3D printers, laser engravers. And then we don't limit, we have other supplies they can use as well. So it's really doing a lot of the concepts they're going to learn in manufacturing. And to some extent, we've even talking about getting some of the NIMS credentials in those classes as well. Because obviously our manufacturers would like the students to have. So yes, as somebody put in the chat, it is, yes, a national program. Even though we've learned, you know, our teachers went through the training, and they have the overall philosophy, they moved away from a lot of what project lead gives, because they felt it wasn't engaging and doesn't use the technology necessarily.
Well, it also didn't incorporate student choice. And that was one of the things that we got back from feedback from our kids, is that they wanted more student choice. So we start with the initial PLTW project, which is building the box. But they learn through that how to use the Onshape technology in order to make their own designs later on when they choose their own projects.
I think. Any other questions or? So the breakdowns of the steps, you know, so I just want to go over those. So the things we really need to do for our students in order to get in this career pathway endorsement is, first of all, that individualized learning plan. And there's platforms out there for that, many different ways you can do that. The career exploration, which we found with our students, was not difficult because that's just part of our curriculum. It's actually part of our English curriculum, both freshman and sophomore year. Students do the career exploration. They actually do presentations on the path that they've chosen, looking at the different, they look at how much will they be paid? They look at the work hours, they look at the school that you'll need, and they also look at their interests and how it matches up with the skills needed. So they actually do that both freshman and sophomore year, and present on that. The labor market information, so we need to make sure they're in demand occupations, which we start talking about. Manufacturing definitely fits those with the wages. And then as you get into the pathway more, you have to look and see, well, what are the regional post-secondary programs? These students, once again, can get those NIM credentials with TMA or with Trenton College or many other areas. They have to get 2 dual credit courses, which we have embedded into them.
How do you feel?
They are related electives that we put in there as well. The transitional support, transitional math comes really into that. Our students, most of them in the manufacturing pathway, will take transitional math technology to prepare for this. And then the harder parts is when you look at that professional learning experiences, the correction, the correction, we got the team-based challenges, and then that career development. So those are the pieces we're going to talk a little bit more in depth of, especially with that team-based challenge and the career development. So. All right, and then Lisa, will you talk a little bit about, will talk a little bit about how we do the career exploration.
Sure. So we start in freshman year, but we're going to be honest with you and tell you that we even start by going to our partner schools and starting some initial career exploration with them, just so we can start seeing the numbers that are coming through that might be interested in this pathway. But for all of our freshmen, we do use Zello, and they do the 4 interest inventories, the personalities test, the career interest inventory, the learning style. And it's a wonderful predictive analytic program that then spits out that they have these common things like manufacturing or robotics or anything that kind of lends itself to that physics and engineering way. We do that with them. And then as part of it, English 1 does a career research presentation where they have to come out and say everything that they learned about themselves, what pathway they want to go down from this point on. And then we work with their advisors to pick electives going forward. So even though that PLTW class is their foundational science course where we kind of pinpoint who are these future engineers and manufacturers, we use that to jumpstart the rest of their high school career. Yes, we love the English component too. And actually math jumped on this year, and they're using a graphing to talk about return on investment and learning how, like earning your NIMS credentials and earning dual credits in freshman year of high school, what that does for you. So Triton does a really good job with us. We do a field of study career field trip over the pandemic. We still held it virtually, but as early as freshman year, they are seeing what our junior college has, what programs it offers, and even what programs we can allow them to enter into in high school.
So we knew that, well, it was great doing it freshman year. We needed to make sure to hit this again. And now let Lisa continue on with now sophomore year.
So sophomore year again, this year we go a little bit deeper. They start learning that their lifestyle choices and how they want to have their life, what they want. Do they want to live in a condo downtown? Do they want an apartment with the boys? Do they want to have a house and 2 kids and a dog and a white picket fence? Whatever the case may be. Now, how does your job, your career path, how does it line up with the lifestyle that you want? What is that salary? What is that budget? And bringing in English with math and the research component, and then a collaborative discussion on what these things mean. So they go a little bit deeper into it. And then we also find out at that point, how much have their interests changed? So far, here's what we found out. Even though the career itself, the idea of what career they want changes, nobody is truly changing whole career pathways. They might say, "Ooh, I don't want to be an engineer. I don't want to go to school for those 4 years, but that engineering technology degree looks really cool." Or just getting NIMS credentials and doing an internship at our local manufacturing company. That's the right way for me, and maybe I'll go back to college later. So we have all these multiple exit points as a result of the career exploration.
Then as we move on, we talk about team-based challenges, and these are the things that we look at. We ask every elective course. We actually spent time once a month. We had meetings talking about career pathways with the entire staff, and we asked all our electives. We wanted at least one team-based challenge embedded into each course. And when we talk about, well, because then they're like, well, what is supposed to be in this? And we sort of had to educate them. Here's what we asked them. We said, first of all, we asked that you work with a local professional in the community. Find somebody that's a professional in whatever category, business. We got our engineering, we got our construction, but we found it, work with a professional, come up with a problem, have a work day with the mentor. So invite these people in to work with our students, and then have our students present to an authentic community, all right, or at least demonstrate their product or what they came up with. So those are the components we sort of laid out for our staff as they create these team-based challenges. So a couple of examples that we have, and we actually have a team-based challenge that even goes down to our middle school, is our fluid power challenge. We actually have QCC, which is one of the manufacturers. They go to the school along with James Foster, who also works with fluid power. They go and spend a day working with the students on this, and the kids develop and build, and then they'll come back with what they build for a competition. And then the competition will be at Ridgewood. And then we also have those some other businesses come, and they actually are the judges. And they spend the first half hour, the kids bring their product over, they sort of make sure it's working. If they need help, we have the professionals there, and then the competition would start. Another thing that we do with the team-based challenge is we have a University of Illinois engineering camp, where now the students will actually have it to design, and they actually consider that they do some welding in this, and they actually work with actual engineers on this, and they work with University of Illinois professors. So it sort of brings in a lot of professionals into this as they work on that team-based challenge.
But we want to let you know how that we address the equity component, especially with that engineering camp. The equity component is addressed because we know that a lot of our students are working after school, or they're picking up their younger siblings, and we had to be mindful of that. And one of the things that our flexible schedule does at Ridgewood is it allows for these flex times. And that is when we do this, and it's within the school day. And it's so interesting because the kids have their pick of where they want to go to, and more are showing up at this engineering camp just because of word of mouth. So it's really a nice thing, and that whole idea of equity is really incorporated in it.
And you have to be creative because, like business, our business pathway, they have DECA, Future Business Leader America. Our education pathway, they have, Educator Rising. So they have sort of those built-in team challenges in those. So with with engineering, we do have our robotic club too. You know, so that's another one that do competitions. So there's some things that are built in, and sometimes you got to be creative as far as developing team-based challenges. So now as we go on with our career development, you know, we're fortunate to have be able to work with the Technical Manufacturing Association, where students go and earn their NIMS credentials. After they earn those NIMS credentials, they now will get internships. And QCC has been great partnering with us. And what really helps with that is that they assign a mentor. So not only are they doing this internship, paid internship, by the way, they also will have a mentor at the company that sort of partners up with them. So they have somebody to ask questions, help lead them. And all our students, by the way, that have done that have been offered a job after completing that. Now they do have to go for an interview to get these internships. And this semester, one of our students went to the wrong manufacturing company for the interview. As it turns out, they did not turn him away. They actually did want to interview him, and they did offer him a job. Just once again, that shows us a little bit about the market. He did end up going to the other place, even though that place offered him, because just once again, you know, QCC has worked with us and helped us along the way. But if we needed to branch out our partnerships, there's a lot more opportunities, especially with this engineering, with manufacturing. So, and then we want to sort of talk a little about tips for the school. And we talk about, you know, first of all, you got to find that champion. And our champion, I'd say, is the president of QCC. He is, you know, he's not worried about just his manufacturing company. He's somebody that looks at all manufacturing in the United States and recognizes the need and is willing to put the work and time in.
And he's so passionate. He's so passionate. He comes and talks to our kids, our parents, our community. He just wants to spread the word that we need manufacturers.
Yeah. Another one is that the work starts in grade school. We are a high school only district, but we're fortunate to have our grade schools at the table. With manufacturing, find ways for students to earn the NIMS credentials. As we can actually get those. We're going to be looking to get those even in Project Lead the Way. There's ways to get these students their credentials. We can get it with our community college. We can get that with TMA. And then it's about the partnering with your manufacturing companies that are dedicated to developing the talent. Sending our kids just to go to an internship, if they're not, you know, because they need employees, is not going to work. They also need those mentors. They need somebody that's looking out for them, and that's going to help the students and recognize the pathways and exit points that they have in this. So that concludes. So.
You again, Eric and Lisa. And Lisa, glad we got you on here. Figured it out. The joys.
I finally figured out I was connected.
Yeah,
I was connected to the Epson projector speakers. I was projecting something for students today. My fault.
Oh no. Oh no. Well, it worked out. It worked out. But again, thank you all for sharing those components. And would love to just open it up here to any questions or takeaways from the group.
The one question I had is, Eric, which of the NIMS credentials are you looking to pair up with your PLTW courses?
Probably the measurements one.
The measurement and safety one?
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question. Is this all done through your high school, or are you with a career center?
We're a high school, just a one building high school. So yeah,
So your businesses that you have engaged, I'm representing a chamber, so I'm a non-education person.
Okay.
So what's the ask of your business community?
Well, the ask is whatever they can do for us. So our manufacturing people were looking to work with us because they're looking to build a pipeline, right? So they were an easy ask, not the same for other career pathways, but this one, because we have so many manufacturers in our area, it was an easy ask. They were looking for us at the same time. We do not have a career center. Eric and I try to find partners all over the place, and we've been so lucky with our community.
So we do ask that they do quarterly meetings with us. And then, you know, we do ask them like for the internship component. So that's sort of probably would be
the biggest ask. Right.
Yeah. And Lisa and Eric, is it fair to say that you've got a lot of different opportunities for employers depending on where they're at? So if they just want to do career exploration or just want to do the challenges, you're able to meet them where what they're able to
Absolutely.
provide.
Anywhere we can.
Yeah, no, that is true. We're, and once again, being close to Chicago may help with having lots more opportunities with the businesses, especially manufacturers.
I was looking up your the PLTW class, and I think you mentioned it was physics. But when I looked on their site, I didn't see a physics one. Did I just miss it, or do they call it something different? I was curious which course was your required.
No, it's the engineering one.
The
But we-
engineering. Okay.
Yeah, but we do cover some physics in there as well. So
Okay.
We added that component.
because it is actually, it's our freshman year science class. So that's why also, so we
Oh, I love that. I'm like, ooh, I want to take that back to.
Yeah, I love that piece too, where it's like, well, freshman year, like you got to take this class. And so you got to do these things and you got to start to discover some pieces about yourself that you might not have actually opted in for, because I mean, you think back to yourself at 14 years old and there is a question from Denise about logistic support that you all might have, or it looks like for faculty with behind the scenes work.
our staff has been flexible. I think the culture of our school is we understand that we can provide these experiences for the students. I think they recognize how important it is. So when you talk about the logistics, for example, when our students go to TMA, they will go twice a week. And because of that, we have to have flexibility in the classes. So we do have a schedule that does have a flex time sort of built in, where the students sort of choose where they're going to go that period. They could sign up for multiple things. So they may have to sign up for those flex because, okay, I'm missing this class this day and I'm missing this class this other day because we're going to TMA twice a week. We do have one teacher there whose one prep is setting up for our students these internships. So that's, so she sort of monitors that, sets it up, contacts them, sets up interviews when needed. So that's one of our business, prep for one of our business teachers. So that really helps as well. Like I said, our superintendent, she's in the quarterly meetings with the manufacturers. The president of Triton College actually attends those meetings. And then we have the principal of one of our feeder schools along with the superintendent from our feeder schools. So I think when you have that type of support, that really helps as well.
I'd love to know too, any more details you all could share on like the mentor component for your career development experiences. So I think about a lot, right? Someone might say yes to offering this for students, right? But the yes person isn't always the mentor, right? And so curious, like, what you all do to like onboard a mentor or expectations for them.
You know what, they actually at QCC, they have, they really have somebody whose job is recruiting and working with high schools and also probably a lot of colleges as well. So they have that sort of set up on their own. Now on our side, we do have every student has advisory twice a week. So that's once again a spot where we ask our advisors, one thing, we don't expect them to be experts in everything, but at least provide our students. That's where we'll do some career exploration and they at least can guide them. Okay, you have questions about this. All right, here's where you need to go talk to if you want to sort of get a little bit further on that. So.
And we do have a community mentoring program also that we tap into for many, many different things. And these community mentors are from in all different walks of life and that offer that mentoring aspect to our students.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Any other questions for our presenters here, Eric and Lisa, before we turn it over to Sarah? Well, I appreciate you all for sharing. I love the, students said that this wasn't working for them or they didn't like it. And you're like, all right, let's revisit that course and what you all are doing in that and incorporate choice. We talk about this in many ways that we all spin our wheels and do a lot of work, but if it's not valuable for them, if they're not seeing kind of the point of it sometimes, right? Like a lot of work to then not have that engagement. So just really appreciate you all again for sharing. And if you all have any additional questions, please put those in the chat. And I know Eric and Lisa are always happy to connect afterwards as well. If you have questions or email or whatever. I'll go ahead and turn it to Sarah. I think, Sarah, you're going to share your screen, right? Or I can. A virtual round of applause to Eric and Lisa here. Thank you all.
Okay, yes, Eric and Lisa, that was just amazing. And I think not that I ever doubt Ed Systems' ability to put together a panel, but like I love now hearing just all the creativity and the innovation that schools have the ability to do. And now I can speak to some of what we've been working on at the Illinois Manufacturers Association as it relates to education and workforce policy. So my name is Sarah Hartwick. I serve as the Vice President of Education and Workforce Policy at the Illinois Manufacturers Association. I also serve as the Executive Director of the IMA Education Foundation. And what we embarked on in the fall was a statewide tour to talk with employers and manufacturers across the entire state to learn about the workforce challenges that are happening in those individual regions and identify some statewide trends and barriers that maybe some policy changes can assist with. Just to give you a brief overview of the Manufacturers Association, we are the largest manufacturers association in the country that was founded in 1893. We have over 4,000 members and facilities that we represent. And some of our members, as you'll see on the next slide, are some pretty big manufacturers. 75% of our members have 250 employers or less. And mostly what we're known for with the manufacturers is our advocacy and government relations work. But as you can see with my role, and I'm sure a lot of you knew Jim Nelson, who served in this role until his retirement in 2020. But we are the only manufacturers association that has a person dedicated to education and workforce policy. And so that makes us really unique. And I know that our members really, really appreciate that. And Jim worked really hard to build that, that trust and that relationship with our members as it relates to education and workforce policy. But here's just some of the other things that we do for manufacturers across Illinois. And here's just some of our history. I thought I would just kind of put this up on a slide. You can see 128 years, although I think that number is now, I think it's 129 years, whoops. But just the history of the IMA and some of our members, from Gillette to Pfizer, penicillin, in the 1940s. And now we have companies that were working on vaccines and making PPE over the last couple of years. The Rivian truck, iPhones. It's really, really cool what Illinois has to offer. And my biggest thing is, how do we get that information out there to kids to see how cool it is to work in manufacturing in Illinois? And this is my favorite poster that we do. This is just, and you don't have to be an IMA member to be on this poster, but it's just a snapshot of products that are made in Illinois, and each picture is where they are made. So you can see, the Rivian trucks, Capri Sun in Southern Illinois, that we had a really cool company that made a product that melts the ice on traffic lights, because when they switched to LED, it wasn't getting hot. And so the ice was just sticking. So we have a company in Northern Illinois that invented a product and manufactures a product that melts the ice off of the traffic lights, which, if anyone, as we talked about before this, is watching the weather, it's really useful over the next couple of days here in Illinois. But this is my favorite poster to use, and we do have some of these available, so if anyone's interested in them, but it's just a cool snapshot of some of the products that are made here in Illinois. And so I started, I mentioned the workforce policy tour, and we stopped at 10 regions across the state. We had over 150 participants. And what was really unique about these discussions is we wanted to make sure it was employer-led. So it included local education stakeholders, community colleges, chambers, EDCs, and of course, manufacturers. But when it comes to the employer perspective, what are the regional barriers and issues that you are facing? And let's talk about it. It was so interesting that each region, again, you'll see some of the statewide trends that we identified, but it was so different in, Rockford really working on how do we build a talent pipeline system similar to Ridgewood that helps because they have so much of their workforce that's going to retire. Champaign said, hey, we have an amazing network already in existence. We just need funding. We just need money to fund our efforts that we already know will work in this space. And so We learned some really amazingly creative solutions and best practices as well that are being used by manufacturers and employers across Illinois. And we are in the process of finalizing to release the report that summarizes those key findings. And here's just a quick, I just wanted to list so you guys had a sense of where we visited. Definitely not enough. There's more places to go and visit for sure on our just quick kind of short, brief tour, but really excited for the participation. And I think people were just, that was when Delta was going away before Omicron came too much. So it was a really like sweet spot where they're just willing to come together and get together in person and just digest, just talk about what everyone's experiencing. It was really incredible. So here's some of those themes that were identified throughout the meetings. And again, everyone was unique in their region to the challenges and some ideas, but I think the biggest piece, and this isn't a surprise, is the lack of interest in careers in manufacturing across all demographics. What manufacturing is perceived to be today. It is no longer that dark, dirty, and dangerous work of the past. And it's not just students that we need to communicate that to, that we need to tell parents, make sure they know what manufacturing plants look like today. I mean, you walk on a shop floor and most of you guys know this, but it's clean, it's sustainable, it's diverse, it's high paying jobs. The average salary and benefits for a manufacturer employee in Illinois is over $88,000 a year. And that number is pre-COVID. So that number has gone up. We employ 558,000 women and men on factory floors. So it's such a prominent industry, but there's just a lack of interest in those careers. Employers, as this is kind of what everyone is facing right now, is challenges of identifying and recruiting employees. We're breaking records every month of job openings, and manufacturing continues to be impacted by that. And there's also just the fact that there's not enough people that exist. If everyone was willing to participate in the workforce who were able to, we would still have a significant number of job openings. So we're at a really interesting time as well, and we'll get to this later, of the implementation of technology and robotics and Industry 4.0 and the role that plays, but still the need for people to work within manufacturing. We have a lot of challenges that are coming up, as you guys know, with retention and retirements. If I see one more article about the Great Resignation, although I did see, and of course I'm going to forget about it now because I didn't write it down, they had a spin on it. It was basically like the people are not just resigning to stay home necessarily. They're looking for better paying job opportunities. And so that's a really interesting thing that a lot of employers are experiencing right now. We also learned that when it came to the resources that exist for employers to go to look for employees, surprise, in Illinois, there's a lot of silos and not all the silos are talking. And so while the Workforce Innovation Board may be doing this and DCEO is doing this, and not everyone is necessarily talking. And that while there are supports that are out there for people to identify those who are looking for work, a lot of times employers are not made aware of them. Again, the skills gap that is coming. I thought of the skills gap right away, Eric, when you guys had mentioned the adding of math just this year in addition to English for some of those courses, because our employers are saying that a lot of individuals are not able to pass just the basic third grade assessment that they require to be hired. And we've done a little digging in that too, just to find out, what's really happening that individuals aren't able to pass it. Who are they? What have they been doing over the last couple of years? So there's more, there's a deeper dive that goes into that, but our employers are still telling us there's a skills gap in addition to the essential skills gap, like communication skills, showing up on time, ghosting, not ghosting, rather, should be a skill. And then finally, like you guys all know, and Ridgewood did an amazing job, there's limitations on education institutions who are trying to help work with employers on workforce and training, but there's a lot of mandates that schools are burdened by, and they're not always able to have that relationship with their employers. But obviously Ridgewood shows that there are successful models out there. So our report will include some creative solutions and some examples that IMA members shared throughout the tour related to all of these potential solutions. The first one is education institutions. And I think, again, Ridgewood did an amazing job to kind of summarize all the opportunities that exist when it comes to partnering, contextualizing education. You know, how early do you need to begin that career exploration? And how do you make what a kid is learning relevant to what they are interested in and also relevant to a potential career path? I love the on and off ramps that are incorporated into the program that was mentioned, that started with the Project Lead the Way work. And it is important because a kid is pretty sure of what they're interested in, but then when it comes to a specific career, what kind of opportunities for career exploration can you provide throughout their entire educational career? There's the talent pipeline management system, which is basically what we just heard about, the importance of, and we've mentioned this throughout the tour, of employers being engaged with their school districts in this way to build a talent pipeline, because it's going to have long-term positive impact on their workforce needs. And then also making sure that the messaging of what manufacturing looks like today is communicated to the education institutions, the counselors, the parents, the teachers, the administrators, the school board, so that everyone knows what and of course I'm biased, what a cool career is for someone who's working in manufacturing. We also discussed some solutions on the recruitment strategies. We have some amazing IMA members that are just taking a new twist on when they're rebranding and using marketing tools in those rebranding efforts. What we've really seen with the Gen Zers, or what has been reported to us with the Gen Zers, is that they are looking for careers that obviously pay well, but also that they're passionate about. They want to work for companies that are making a difference in the world. And what better example than manufacturing is that, to speak to that passion? I mean, one of our meetings, and I think it was the one that the superintendent from Ridgewood was at, there was an individual in the room that said, well, we make medical devices. And as we were talking more about this rebranding, it's like, no, you help people walk again. Like, that is a passion and a committed mission, and bigger than just making medical devices. There's a lot of research that is being done as well on the diversity and the equity impact that is being had through the language that is used in job descriptions and the job requirements. Years ago, it was just the default to say 4-year bachelor's degree. And one of our biggest members actually spoke to, they did a deep dive into all of it. I mean, some of their entry-level positions required 4-year degrees, and they removed that, and the increase in their applicants was incredible. And she said, and they didn't remove it for the jobs, obviously, that didn't need it, but some of those entry level, was that really necessary? And also changing the lingo that's used in the language within the job description to make sure it's really clear what that person is going to be doing. And this also kind of helps with understanding the day-to-day responsibilities of the job, but also setting expectations for that person who's applying, who doesn't apply, get the job, show up on the first day and go, oh, this is not at all what I was thinking that this was going to be. There's a lot of opportunities as well, and some pipelines for those non-traditional employees. And we talk a lot about working with community organizations and faith-based organizations, veterans home organizations that support individuals with disabilities, second chance citizens, all of those opportunities that exist with those individuals that, may need additional upskilling, but still a possibility to explore for addressing some of your workforce needs. And then the hiring and onboarding practices. And I love that story, Eric, that you mentioned about the kid that showed up to the wrong place for an interview and ended up being hired. And that's just really incredible. The employers are hiring really quickly, but that's giving them less time to be able to do some of their traditional onboarding practices. They're crunching up the timelines. They're not getting to know the individual as well. And so there's some other ways that they can work through addressing that. There was an employer in Southern Illinois that they hire the individual and they pay them to come attend a full day onboard interview process. And then at the end of the day, they say, you can go, we'll pay you, it's up to you, but we just want you to come in and really see what it's like to work here. And they said that the payoff for the retention rates is just incredible. I mentioned the Great Resignation too, and we've heard a lot of our members are utilizing what they call stay interviews instead of exit interviews, really understanding what makes a person stay, getting a sense of the workplace culture. Why do you want to work here? What do you like best? What do you not like? As opposed to trying to fix it when people are trying to leave on the back end. And then also people really want to make sure they're aware of opportunities for advancement. That's not always clear. I mean, manufacturing is the typical start on the ground floor and work your way up. But while I say that's typical, it's not always assumed by all the employees. And it's really important that those opportunities are made clear. And we're also a big supporter of apprenticeships and building the talent pipeline management that way. Excuse me, we work with ICAT that has a lot of work with schools and community colleges to build the apprenticeship program. And so we're a big support of that as well. So we did come up with some legislative solutions, and I'll also speak to the one that we're working on with Ed Systems, but I was really excited for those who just totally geeked out over the budget, the governor's budget proposal, went page by page and said, what in there is related to manufacturing, as we did, or I did. But the importance of having a statewide campaign that advertises what it's like to have a career in advanced manufacturing. And the governor proposed $7 million to this effort, which is incredible. What can we do of the work that's in Ridgewood and model that in other parts of the state? There's going to be a significant part that is a social media campaign, but one of the recommendations was to fund a campaign. So we're very excited to see that was in the proposal and are working with the General Assembly to make sure it continues to be included. There's some creative financial incentives that are also referenced, like student loan forgiveness for individuals who leave their communities to go to college and then come back and work in manufacturing. Provides student loan forgiveness for those individuals. I mentioned the flexible grant funding for those regional networks that was mentioned in Champaign to support what they already know works to address their workforce strategies. The importance of, and this is also part of the campaign that we had recommended, but establishing a manufacturing technology line item in the ISB budget. We've heard from a lot of school districts that are working to want to expand their manufacturing programs. We've talked to employers who are interested in partnering with school districts to expand, and it'd be really great to get some statewide support for expanding those manufacturing programs. This is more for employers, but the Employer Training Investment Program is a reimbursement program that the state uses to reimburse 50% for training costs. And it was released this year and included in the next budget. So that's really exciting to help upskill current employees and train new employees. And then we also continue to recommend establishing additional advanced manufacturing academies. There were 2 academies that were awarded $7.5 million grants last year. One was at Heartland Community College in partnership with Rivian, the electric vehicle company in Bloomington, Illinois. And then the other one was at SWIC, who is building a brand new campus on near their Belleville site. So this is a really good model. There was a number of applicants that submitted. There are a number of community colleges that submitted applicants in addition to those that were awarded, and there's just incredible opportunity. We are also working with Ed Systems on a grant through DCEO that will really take the career pathways work that is already in existence in I think it's 9 or 10 communities across the state, and expand that work can bring the employers to the table, develop curriculum, get those basically the mentor opportunities, the internship opportunities, even scholarship opportunities. And so that's a recommended financial incentive that we included in the campaign, but we're also waiting to hear back from DCEO if that grant's been awarded, because that's just a really great opportunity. And we had a couple of categories that would help with the education that employers had recommended would help on the education front. Again, similar to Ridgewood, establish a statewide career development experience continuum. I mean, I love that. Start with encouragement in the lower grades and develop them throughout. So they're able to, I like the funnel, you'll start very wide and focused by the time they get to high school graduation and graduate with as many dual credit credentialing as they possibly can. And that really needs to be a model for the entire state. There's a lot of limitations, of course, on school districts. Mandate relief is always a problem, with the graduation requirements that were passed a couple of years ago, really just 1 year ago, adding to the graduation requirements, the foreign language piece. And there's also limitations on a work day. And I would love to hear about Ridgewood, just how you kind of get creative with those work-based learning opportunities within the limitations of the school day. And then finally, prioritize the expansion of competency-based pilot programs. Employers are not aware of this, but when I would talk to them about what it was, they were amazed that this exists. And so we included it in here because there really hasn't been more competency pilots that have been approved in recent years. John, were you going to say something? No, I saw you getting more and more. So like I mentioned, in terms of next steps, we're going to be releasing our report. It will include some legislative recommendations, and the one that we're actually really excited about that in a little form passed out of committee this morning. And thanks, John, for your partnership, and Emily for her comments. But we do have a proposal that would implement the PWR PACE framework in schools across the entire state. It allows schools who are doing really creative work, achieving the same goal, to opt out. But it's just this opportunity to really get this proven framework that employers are not aware of. But when I talk to them, they can't believe that exists. They're saying, how do we talk to our schools? How do we get them to implement this type of work? And really just forcing that more at the school level is incredible. So we do have a legislative proposal that we'll continue to work through the process in the coming months. The IMA and the Education Foundation will always look for opportunities to file more legislative solutions. I think there's just so much interest here on employers, and there's so much work that districts are trying to do, and just how to bring that all together that addresses the workforce needs, I think is just really, really incredible. And so we always look forward to those partnerships. And then again, the IMA and the Education Foundation, we work closely with all of our stakeholders. And I do want to say, for those on the call, and I don't know if you're all from schools or what the exact audience is, but I want to make myself available too. The biggest part of my time is spent talking to employers and schools who are saying, hey, we're doing XYZ. Can you connect me with a school, or can you connect me with an employer? Or the easiest thing to do is me just send an email to all your regional employers that are IMA members about events. But there's a lot of employers are really looking for those opportunities, and I'm happy to help kind of fill that space for anyone who may be interested.
So Sarah, I'm Chris with the Sauk Chamber, and what we're finding, so I work closely with some of your IMA colleagues, but we have so we're a very big manufacturing hub here up in Sterling, Rock Falls, Dixon, and many of our manufacturers aren't IMA members. So you guys, and I'm not saying this to be mean, you guys don't help them because you're a membership-based organization. So we're doing so much pathway work, but I kind of feel the IMA is missing out because we have all these manufacturers, for whatever reason, won't join the IMA, and we're really impacting change with some of that. So I don't know how to build on that, but it's an observation in, I work, like I said, IMA, it comes up all the time. They get on, we have a regional manufacturing group, they get in part of that. And I'm not part of that conversation with why they won't join. I just feel there's a disconnect.
Yeah, and that's really what I appreciate you saying that. And that's what we try. That's what I tried to address in these meetings, is we didn't limit it to the IMA members, because I think, the workforce goals and the barriers that people are existing is common across the entire state. And so we did open our meetings up, and I'm happy to talk to anyone and just make that connection for schools. My background was K-12 education for about 12 years. So, I know the K-12 system really well, but I don't want anyone to think that because they're not a member, we're not willing to help in this space or hear what has been tried and has worked or hasn't worked, because I think it just sends such a message for the overall good of the entire state if we can really help manufacturers and employers.
Well, and I don't know, and Gail writes on this call with ROE, but we're rural Illinois, and so when you talk about challenges, like we have transportation issues, so if you're in, our Career Center represents 17 high schools in 3 counties, and we're talking about getting kids to location. That's one of the biggest barriers, is that the schools support it and they want kids to get experience. We just can't get them there, and there's a lot of liabilities with kids driving themselves. And so some of those that if you're a smaller geographic area, those are things that we don't even think about, like how is kid going to get from point A to point B and back to point A? And we're really trying to figure that out.
That is something that came up throughout the tour as well, and we actually included it in our and not that the manufacturing the campaign for careers in manufacturing is something that the governor included in his 2019 economic 5-year outlook, and it was released in October of 2019, and we all know what happened in March. And so just in some further conversations with him of what could possibly be included, that transportation reimbursement is something that we added. You know, is there something that the state can do to help get the kids to those facilities, be it during manufacturing month or just at a time that works best? And it's also making sure that the employers know that that is an option if they have the funding to be able to do that as well. You know, a lot of employers, and I don't know if this is true in Sauk Valley, but the 2 years of COVID really kind of impacted how they opened up their facilities for visitors. I mean, the first year it really limited school field trips, and the second year of COVID really seemed to be limited on the manufacturer side, but that's all changing. And I mean, there's definitely, I think that is really, really important point about the transportation piece, but I think there's creative ways around it as well. Anything else? Say my contact information is there, and anyone that you work with, again, you know, I am a member or not, I because I'm somewhat new to this space, I want to learn and understand just what is happening with employers, and I think we're making some really incredible progress, at least initially on the state side, and just connecting with as many people as possible is really what I hope to do. So do share my contact information with anyone who may like it. Also, you can visit our website for that as well. But thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you again to Eric and Lisa. And again, if you have questions, we'll continue to stay on here for a moment, or if our presenters need to head out too, you know, we can respect that. But I love this piece, you know, of the employers also, where their kind of skin in the game is, right? And for you all to see what that is and where the adjustments can be made, right? And then where you can work in collaboration on that. So it was really just nice to see that, Sarah. Appreciated that a lot. All right, any other questions or final hurrahs? Good takeaway from today? Thank you all. Thanks again, Sarah. I'm looking forward to the report and, you know, where this all goes. We'll hear back from DCEO at some point, and, you know. Right.
Anyone has a crystal ball or a direct line there, please let me know.
Thanks all.